Hello guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So as you probably saw from the title of this video, we are going to be discussing the books that I read in April. April was a pretty good reading month for me. I read 16 books. 16. I don't remember what my record for reading is, but I'm pretty sure it's right around 16 or 17, so I either tied my record, just missed it, or beat it. I'm not sure which, but this is one of the highest reading months I have ever had, and I blame quarantine, that's for sure. Thank you, quarantine, for helping me get through my TBR. It's been needed. Let me actually double check how many books I read this month, because I want to get the number right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 17. 17. Okay, so I lied to you. I read 17 books this month. It's last month. I read 17 books in the months of May. The months. There are multiple months in May now. And we're not talking about May. We're talking about April. So I read 17 books in the month of April, which is crazy. I haven't had a reading month this good in forever. Normally I average about 6 to 8 books a month if I'm having a good month, so I don't know what happened. Actually, I kind of do know what happened. I think I discovered a couple of series that I really enjoyed, and that just helped immensely. Okay, so without any further ado, let's start talking about all the books that I read this month, because there are so many to get through and I don't want to keep you here all day. This is the part where Danielle has to remember what everything's about. So the first book I read in the month of April is actually Don't Read the Comments by Eric Smith. This is a book that as soon as I found out the premise, I was so excited to read it, because it involves things that I myself love, which is gaming. So this book follows a girl named Divya, and she is an online gaming streamer. So she plays this game called Reclaim the Sun, and she streams, and she kind of does it for reasons that most people would have no idea for. She is an extremely popular streamer. Everybody who plays the game knows who she is, and she does it as a way to get sponsorships, to save money, and to raise money to help her mom finish going to school. Her mom has 1 semester of school left, and her mom can't afford to pay for it and is considering dropping out. But Divya is playing this game so that she can help her mother get through school. Now, it takes place in a point of the game where she is struggling immensely with online trolls. People are being nasty and bullying her to the point where they're trying to bully her out of playing the game, but she wants to hold on for the sake of her mother, and because she just doesn't want to go down without a fight. She just doesn't want to go down to the trolls. She wants to go out on her own terms. Now, Aaron is the other character in this story, and he writes games. Aaron is struggling with writing games for this local developer who is not paying him for his work nor giving him credit, and Divya is obviously struggling with her finances and with her mother and everything going on in her personal life. And when the two of them meet in the game, the trolls come out in full swing and start threatening them in their personal lives, and it gets really real. Both of them have high stakes in this. They have to work together to take down the trolls and to reclaim what it means to allow themselves to be in a space and not be bullied for it. This book was so good. It surprised the hell out of me, to be honest. I knew I was gonna like it because I love gaming, and I loved gaming when I was young, but I just didn't expect to love it as much as I did. And there was a reference in here to one of my favorite games ever, Ultima Online, when I was growing up, and I was just like Eric Smith nailed this. Not only did he have an incredible story with really amazing characters, but he also nailed the pop culture references. I remember immediately finishing this book, taking a picture, tagging him, and just complimenting him on his craft, because I was blown away. So as I said, this is the first book that I read this month. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I was so impressed. I told so many of my friends to read it. Something I would highly recommend anyone pick up. The next series that I read in the month of April was probably the series that is the reason I read so many books last month. I fell head over heels for these books and this world, and I was completely captivated, and I think it just propelled me to want to read so much last month, because I devoured this series. And that series is the Beautiful Creatures series. This has been on my shelf for ages, and I've never read them. I kind of almost felt like I missed my window of time to thoroughly enjoy them. Do you guys ever feel like you discover a book series at just the right time and if you would have discovered it a little sooner or a little later, you probably wouldn't love it as much as you do. That's kind of how I felt about this, and I was worried that it wasn't going to be for me, even though it sounded perfect. But I devoured it. Each one of these books is like 400 or 500 pages. I started these books April 3rd and I finished the entire series April 8th. That's how much I loved them, which is crazy because again, they're all 400 or 500 pages long. So this story follows Lena Duquesnes and Ethan Waite, both of whom are in this small town in the south called Gatlin. Lena is about to turn 16 and she is struggling to conceal both her powers and a curse that her family has been suffering from for generations. Ethan is your ordinary everyday boy from Gatlin, going to high school and counting the days until he gets to leave this small town behind and he can move on to bigger and better things. But recently, Ethan has been having dreams of this strange girl, and when Lena Duquesnes moves into town, he realizes it's her, and the two of them have to work together to figure out what their connection means and why the connection is there. This series, as I said, took me by complete surprise. It is everything that I love in a series, between the characters, between the world building, between the build up, the slow burn, the brooding main character, and the witchcraft. It was so good. As I said, I read all of these books in 5 days, which is crazy. Now I'm really sad that there was only one movie created, number one, and number two, I think that I'm just going to be recommending the series to everyone for the rest of my life. I liked the plot. I liked that small town. I got attached to so many characters. It was really hard for me to say goodbye to the series. I'm surprised that I was not put into a reading slump after reading this, but as I said, it was so good. I think it just propelled me to read more the rest of the year. The next book that I read in the month of April is actually Disenchanted by Brianna Sugalski. This is a book that Brianna was kind enough to send me an ebook for, and I am so happy she did, because this is literally all of my favorite things wrapped into one book, and I blew through it. I'm pretty sure that I read it in a single day, so if that tells you all you need to know, it probably should. What I love most about it is it's a story of history, romance, and adventure. Disenchanted is essentially about a cursed princess, a crestfallen killer, a town that wants them both dead, and the witch that can save them both. Our story follows Lilac, who is the cursed princess who has to run away and escape to Broslin Forest to hopefully lift her curse before her coronation, because the people that she is going to rule under hate her and despise her and don't trust her because she's cursed. She goes into this forest and runs into a man named Garen, who turns out to be a vampire. The two of them have their own motives and their paths get entwined. Everything gets a little jumbled and messy. Can she break the curse? What dangerous things lie ahead for her in the forest? It was so good. I loved the history aspect of it. I loved the romance. It was super compelling, and I'm a sucker for things that take place in forests. Honestly, I really love a good adventure. The next two books that I read in the month of April were Warstorm by Victoria Aveyard and Broken Throne by Victoria Aveyard. If you don't know what Broken Throne and Warstorm are, Warstorm is the final book in the Red Queen series, and Broken Throne is a bind-up of the novellas in the world. Red Queen, if you don't know, takes place in a dystopian America. In the Red Queen series, the world is divided into Red Bloods and Silver Bloods. Red Bloods are the lowly life people. They are the scourge of the earth in the eyes of the Silvers. They are considered to be unspecial. They're considered to be burdens of society. They tend to be the poor. They tend to be the ones doing the menial labor, and they are looked down upon by the Silvers. The Silver Bloods are the elite. They often tend to come from royal families. They have special abilities, and the story follows a girl named Mare Barrow, who is from the Stilts, which is a very poor region of the world. She goes to work as a servant in the palace, and accidentally, during a publicized royal event, her powers are broadcast on national television. The palace has to cover up her abilities and pretend that she has been a Silver all along, because a red-blooded person having special powers is unheard of and could completely change the shape of the world. I read the first book in the Red Queen series years ago, and I remember when it came out because I was obsessed. At the time, it was the most unique and fascinating story to me. I was obsessed with the series. I read Red Queen, I read Glass Sword, the second book, when it came out, and King's Cage, and for whatever reason, when Warstorm came out, I completely forgot who everybody was. I opened it, I read chapter 1, and I couldn't remember who anybody was, what happened. I was bored. I just couldn't get through it. And so I put it down. I picked it up a year later. I tried again, put it down. And I finally told myself, no, you're gonna finish this. I thought it was pretty good overall. I thought that it was a little longer than it needed to be, and I was pretty unsatisfied with the way the story ended. Not necessarily the way the story ended, but the way everything wrapped up and how unsatisfied I felt when it all ended. So because of this, I pretty reluctantly picked up Broken Throne. Broken Throne is a bind-up of all the novellas from the entire series, so a portion of this I had already read. I skimmed over some of the ones I'd read years ago, and then I went through and read the new stories that I hadn't experienced. Broken Throne surprised me. I gave Broken Throne 5 out of 5 stars because there are short stories in here that follow a couple of characters at the point of the end of Warstorm. So it's a little bit more in-depth of their stories and how they wrap up. I felt so satisfied. I felt it was the way that Warstorm should have ended. It was just such a nice little gift because now I kind of feel like I can put this story to bed and look back on it fondly. I gave Broken Throne 5 out of 5 stars. On top of that, it's just such a gorgeous book. It's such a gorgeous addition. So yeah, I was very, very happy that I finally got around to picking this book up because I've been meaning to finish the series forever. The next book that I read in April is Imagine Me by Taheda Mafi. This book was such a low rating for me. I gave Imagine Me 2 out of 5 stars. If you don't know what Imagine Me is, it is the final book in the Shatter Me series. It follows Juliette Ferrars, and she begins her story in a prison. She's been locked in there for as long as she can remember since she was a little girl. Her parents brought her to this prison, and she's been in isolation for the majority of her life because Juliette has this really weird thing that happens to her where if she makes any sort of contact with somebody or touches anybody, they die. And one day she gets broken out of this prison, and the person who broke her out attempts to use her as a weapon. It is such a good series. The first books in the Shatter Me series, first 3 books, are untouchable to me. Like, I loved them. I devoured them. I think they are pristine and perfect. I think that the last few books were unnecessary. I didn't hate them, but Imagine Me was by far one of the most dissatisfying reads that I've ever read. I cannot believe how painful it was to get through that book. It felt to me like I was reading fan fiction, poorly written fan fiction of a series that I really loved. I felt the ending was rushed. I felt the story overall was rushed. It felt like all of the character development that we got in the story was for nothing, and the ending just seemed pointless, bland, and a waste of my time. I never, ever, ever talk negatively about books, but I was so mad when I finished that book. I was so mad that I spent time reading it. But as I said, the other 3 books are still untouchable. Just Imagine Me it just wasn't it. So I give Imagine Me 2 out of 5 stars. Yeah. The next book I read in the month of April is Tunnel of Bones by V.E. Schwab. No, when she's doing her kids' book, she goes by Victoria Schwab. That is the second book in the City of Ghosts series because there's going to be another one, which I'm so excited about. If you don't know what City of Bones is about, City of Bones, oh my god, Freudian slip, we're not talking about Cassandra Clare, Danielle, calm down. If you don't know what City of Ghosts is about, City of Ghosts is a story that follows a girl named Cassidy Blake, and Cassidy had a near-death experience a year or 2 ago, and because of this near-death experience, she essentially almost crossed over into the land of the dead, and as a result, she is now able to see ghosts. One of which is her friend Jacob. The story follows Cassidy, and her parents are ghost hunters for a television show. So they go around and film ghosts in the real world, but they don't really know that Cassie has a best friend that's a ghost. They just think it's her imaginary friend. Cassidy's parents, as I said, are ghost hunters on a TV show, and their TV show ends up getting booked in Scotland. So Cassidy has to travel across the world with her parents so they can film this TV show. On this journey, Cassidy meets someone just like her, and she has to discover what her purpose truly is with these ghosts and who she really is in this big picture. She runs into some danger and some mystery, and it's such a good series. Tunnel of Bones is the second book in the series, and it takes place in Paris. That's all I'm gonna say in case you haven't read the first one. I loved it. I gave the book 5 out of 5 stars because it's just such a quick read. It's such an easy read. I'm in love with the characters. I thought Paris was super fascinating because I feel like Paris was almost spookier than Scotland, which I didn't expect. It was such a quick read, and I'm very, very excited for book 3. So the next 3 books that I read in the month of April were the Bloodlines books. I didn't finish the whole series, but I got through 3 books. I got through Bloodlines, The Golden Lily, and The Indigo Spell, which is books 1, 2, and 3. Let me tell you about how much I loved this series. So I'm still reading the series. My goal for May is to finish. I have 2 books left, which is The Silver Shadows and The Ruby Circle. I am loving this series. One of my all-time favorite series that I always recommend to people is The Vampire Academy. It is one of the best series I have ever read, and I loved it so much that it took me forever to finish the last book because I didn't want to say goodbye. I was so sad that I was gonna have to say goodbye to these characters that meant so much to me and to this world that I was so enamored with. And one of my dear friends told me that, in fact, I didn't have to say goodbye because some of my favorite characters show up in Bloodlines. So I finally decided to read the Bloodlines series this year, and let me tell you, I am shocked. Not only that it's good because I knew it was going to be good, I love Rochelle Mead's writing and I love this world, but I am shocked that I might even like it more than Vampire Academy. So if you don't know what Vampire Academy is a 6-book series that follows Rose Hathaway and Lissa Dragomir, and it is exactly as it sounds. You have vampires, you have Dompiers. Lissa is a royal vampire and Rose Hathaway is her best friend, and she's also in charge of protecting her. She's a Dompier, so she is a half vampire and a half human. They are a little bit stronger than humans and they are charged with protecting the vampires. So there is a threat that comes Lissa's way, and Rose and Lissa flee the school, run away together and try and survive on their own, but are very quickly brought back to the school where some unusual things begin happening and a bunch of threats fall upon Lissa. The two have to figure them out and deal with them as there's a bigger threat that is growing in the world outside of the school. It is so good and so underrated, and I really, really wish the movies had done better because the cast for the movies was perfect. But Bloodlines is in the exact same world. It takes place shortly after the events in the Vampire Academy series, and it follows some of the characters that you're introduced to in the Vampire Academy. I'm not gonna lie to you, it follows 2 characters in this story, Sydney and Adrian, that I was lukewarm about in the Vampire Academy. They were there. I didn't really care for them. Now they're like my ride or dies. Like, I would literally die for these 2. I love them. I love the slow burn romance in this. I love learning more about magic and the alchemists. I am just so excited because every single book just continues to build on the last one. It is so expansive and it adds to the Vampire Academy world in such a beautiful way. It really truly doesn't feel like she just wrote another series just to write it. It feels like it was going to be told no matter what. It needed to be told. It adds so much depth to the Vampire Academy. I cannot believe it. So book 1, Bloodlines, I gave 5 out of 5 stars because blown away. The second book, Golden Lily, I also gave 5 out of 5 stars. And the third book, The Indigo Spell, I also gave 5 out of 5 stars. I'm pretty certain with the way that this series is going, it keeps getting better each book. I'm pretty certain I will be giving the entire series 5 stars. I am in love and I cannot wait to reread Vampire Academy soon because now I really, really want to. The next book that I read in the month of April is Unfiltered, No Shame, No Regrets, Just Me by Lily Collins. This was a book that I picked up on audio, which I'm so excited that I did because Lily Collins narrated it, and it was just such a nice touch to the audiobook listening to her story from her. I picked this book up as kind of a palate cleanser between some of the fantasy books I'd been reading because sometimes it's nice just to have something in between, just to take a break from the fantasy, just to get a change of scenery, a change of pace. I was pleasantly surprised. Lily Collins is one of my favorite actresses. She's in The Mortal Instruments as well, but she's in a ton of movies that I really, really love and enjoy. The book follows her life and it talks about so many serious topics, from her relationships, her really bad relationships, her relationship with food, her relationship with body image. It is such an incredible book because not only is it poignant and not only does it talk about real important topics, but she also gives every single story a realistic view and a realistic lens so that it's truly raw, emotional, visceral, and real, but everything that she has is showcased with some sense of hope inside. So no matter how dark everything is, she always spins it back around to make it hopeful. No matter where you are, no matter what you're going through, it can always get better. And I really loved her voice. I really loved her writing style. I loved what she talked about. It was just such a good book to read in between. If you ever get the chance to read this book by Lily Collins, I highly suggest it. Whether or not you like her, whether or not you know who she is, it actually really doesn't matter. I think that this is a book that could appeal to anyone because it was so heartfelt, and I'm just so glad I read it. I was actually talking to a friend of mine right after I finished it, and I truly think that it's going to end up being one of those books that I read multiple times a year, because every now and then we really do just need a little bit of a reminder that it is okay and that it does get better. I am just so grateful for Lily and for this book and for who she is as a person. Her films mean a lot to me. She means a lot to me. So this was just such a neat little look into her life. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I am so excited I finally got around to picking it up. Okay, 2 more books left, you guys. We are almost through the books that I read in April. So the next book I read in April is Fireworks by Katie Cotugno, and this was not it. This was not for me. This was not a favorite. Fireworks is essentially the story of 2 best friends on the verge of greatness. It follows 2 girls, Olivia and Dana. Olivia is the it girl. She is the pretty one. She is the one who has a nice family, who comes from a little bit of money, who has always had the means around her to go after anything that she wants and to achieve anything she wants. She is the girl that has always wanted to be the singer and has always wanted to make it in the world and has always wanted to be famous. And then there's her best friend Dana, who has a pretty bad home life, who doesn't have a lot, who probably has at any given time $4 in her bank account, who works a dead-end job all the time just to have her mom take her money from her. The 2 of them are opposites in every single way, but they are really good friends. So Olivia and Dana end up taking a trip down to Orlando so that Olivia can audition to be in this girl group, which is going to be run by this mega superstar, Guy Monroe, who is responsible for creating all kinds of really successful popular groups. Olivia goes down to audition, and Dana ends up getting thrown into the auditions because Guy wants to hear her sing. She's just standing there and he's had duds all day, nobody's been able to sing, and he tells her that she needs to audition, and she had no plans to, doesn't want to, and of course she ends up making it into the group alongside Olivia. They are all in a competition with a bunch of other girls to make it into this girl group. Essentially, it's a story of really complex friendship and love and what it means to be on the verge of greatness and going after your dreams and what you're willing to sacrifice in all areas of your life to make your dreams come true. I will say that I had very high hopes for this. I loved the concept of the story. I love friendship stories. There are not enough of them. This was so disappointing in every single facet. I was let down the entire book. I very rarely DNF books. It's very hard for me to just close a book and never pick it up again and just wonder what would have happened. So I tend to push through them, and I'm mad. I'm mad that I did. This book has been on my shelf forever, and I've been meaning to read it forever, and that ending was so not even just disappointing, but upsetting. I felt so sick to my stomach and so uneasy reading the ending. I gave this book 2 out of 5 stars. Fireworks was just not it for me. The last book I read in the month of April was The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. This is something that has been on my TBR for a while. I ended up getting an advanced reader copy of this at Y'all Fest last year. As soon as I heard the synopsis of this, I was so intrigued, and I just never got around to reading it. I don't know why this is, but every time I get excited for a book, I put it off. And it might just be because I'm afraid of being disappointed. The Shadows Between Us follows a girl named Alessandra. Essentially, Alessandra is tired of being overlooked. She is the youngest sister, and she has to wait until her sister gets married before she can go out and pursue a match. She is the most Slytherin character I have read in a long time. This book is pretty much Slytherin romance at its height, at its peak. So Alessandra, who is tired of being overlooked, has this huge plan. Her plan is to woo the Shadow King, seduce him, marry him, kill him and steal his kingdom for herself so that she can rule on her own terms as she sees fit. It is so good. So there's not much that's known about the Shadow King or his powers. Nobody really knows how they work. They don't know if the shadows protect him, if the shadows are able to spy on people for him, what the deal is, but nobody is allowed to touch him and nobody is allowed to get close to him. And as Alessandra attempts to woo him, she starts to realize that she is not the only one who wants him dead. She might have to actually protect him, because if somebody else kills him first, before she can get him to marry her, she loses all of her power and all of her ability to take over the kingdom. In protecting him, she might just fall for him. It was such a good read. It was super fast. It was fast paced. It was everything I needed. It was just amazing. I'm telling you, this is one of those books that I'm going to be recommending to everybody until I die. I was blown away. I've read other books by Trisha Levenseller. I read her Daughter of the Pirate King and Daughter of the Siren Queen duology, and it was good, but it just wasn't at like God tier for me, but this book was. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. If you were debating picking this book up, this is your sign. Pick it up, do it, read it. You will not regret it. You guys, we did it. That was crazy. That was 17 books that we just talked about together. That was a lot. If you made it to this point in the video, you are incredible, amazing, wonderful. Thank you for spending this much time with me. I had such a good reading month in April. I'm hoping that it's going to continue to carry on through May, but I'm not sure if it will, because as you'll see in next month's wrap up, the books that I've started this month have all been 2-star reads. It's kind of putting me in a reading slump. But I am feeling a little bit more inspired after filming this video about talking about all these books that I had so much fun with in April. I'm hoping that it will turn around before the end of the month, but we'll see. You'll have to stay tuned for next month to see how I do. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, for hanging out with me. Tell me below in the comments how you guys did with your reading goals in April, what books you read, what books were your favorites. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're reading amazing books, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys!